Hi everyone, it's Nicole Connor, host, founder, and steward of the Grand Rising Experience. If you are returning, thank you so much for being here. And if you're new, please consider hitting the subscribe button and joining the email list at grandrisingexperience.substack.com to make sure that you never miss a new episode, update, offer, or more information on the Unicorn Museum that we talk about at the end of this episode. Now, before we get started, it needs to be said that if you were born with a uterus or love someone who has one, if you are struggling right now with symptoms related to the function of your uterus and you're contemplating medical intervention, but there's something about it that just is not sitting well in your soul, this episode is for you. And you are going to want to get comfy and settle in with us for the next hour or so. A topic I keep finding myself falling into a lot lately in both my personal conversations, private thoughts, and in more public conversations like the one you're going to hear today with Christine Marie, is about the role of men and women and what that looks like in a healthy, equitable, and balanced society. And right now, while the world seems to be obsessed with biology, I am far more curious about the energetics of the masculine and the feminine, and how the internal struggles that we're facing stemming from the imbalance of our wounded and feminine masculine energetic bodies is fueling the disharmony and the gender wars outside of us. And the key to finding equity and harmony is first learning how to balance these energies within ourselves. You're going to hear me say, and I don't know where I heard it first, but it's powerful: women point, men lead, women follow. Now, women who are embodied in their healthy feminine trust themselves so deeply. They learn how to trust their intuition and knowing, and therefore do not feel the need or desire to over-explain or over-give of themselves. They know how to receive, express, create, play, and nurture from a place without apology or shame. And because of this, they're able to make decisions that honor their highest expression, which is always in alignment with the highest good for all. And most important, this embodied trust breeds the protection and loyalty of trustworthy men. Men who are in their embodied masculine will innately and instinctively trust the women in their life to choose well and make sound decisions when they are actively witnessing her honoring her whole and true nature. Men will naturally want to lead, protect, shield, provide, procreate with a woman who has firm standards, a woman who can lovingly ask for what she needs when she needs it, a woman who knows how to nurture herself so she can support others, and one who allows herself to surrender to his leadership. A woman will follow and support a man that she trusts, but she will never trust a man until she learns how to trust herself first. Trust is an embodied practice, and for women, trust is deeply tied to our intuition, which is birthed and nurtured inside of our womb space, meaning our period health, how we approach it, honor it, shame it, suppress it, deny it, accept it, love it, deeply impacts the very essence of our feminine nature and our ability to trust ourself. Modern feminism and gynecological models do not account for or factor in anything that cannot be seen in the physical. Yet as women born with a uterus, we energetically represent the unseen. So my conversation with Christine Marie dives into the deep end of what this actually means and the detrimental impact our ignorance and avoidance of divine feminine energy has had on women physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The period Empress, Christine Marie Quigless, has developed a pragmatically driven zero substance, which equals zero risk, solution to eradicate pain, PMS, and symptoms of graduated period problems through her proprietary system, Fierce Gentleness. Through the results of her own journey, which included endometriosis diagnosis, ovary removal, debilitating cramps, extremely volatile PMS, and that of her clients, prove that the womb is not broken. It's just out of balance. So when we seek balance instead of intervention, we fundamentally not only eradicate these issues in our lives, but we up-level our lives in the process. The world needs us at our full power now more than ever. And the graduation to our wholeness and ending the causes of our period problems are absolutely within reach. I am beyond excited to introduce you to Christine Marie because I believe women have been suffering in silence for so long, and the over-reliance on allopathic medical intervention when it comes to our sacred womb space is what is keeping us so disconnected from our intuition and our power. And I have a deep knowing that our world is in desperate need of divine priestesses and far fewer boss babes. So without further ado, thank you so much for being here. I love you. Let's dive in. How's it going?
Good. It's going well. You won't believe, like sometimes I think it's, you know me, menstrual phases. I'm all about them. And some days I just wake up and every single thing around me is a confirmation of nature's willingness to give us instructions. Like, we don't need to look too far. Like, it is not that complicated. Life is not that difficult.
Yeah.
When we are just willing to just observe for a minute instead of impose, it has to be like this, it has to be like this, So some days I wake up like that, and this is one of those days.
Beautiful. I love it. I love when we have like those synchronistic flow days and then you realize like it's actually synced with your personal cycle. And I know we just had a new moon as well. So there's a lot of kind of creation energy and manifestation energy at play right now too.
Yes, and that's the thing, is our cycle's happening all the time because we have 4 phases. So where people get, they go, oh, I'm in sync with the moon because I menstruated on the same day as the full moon. But that's only one way of being. That is the healer's way. And of course, people born with a uterus, most people born with a uterus identify with that healer in them in different ways of how they heal, but they identify with that healing mission. And so, yes, like at the kind of the core of us, then it's a confirmation. Yes, you are in that healing mode for this cycle, but it doesn't mean that you're out of sync if you don't menstruate with the moon, because it may mean that another way of being for you is availing itself, because we're not always healers all the time.
Correct. It's interesting that you say that because in different phases of my own healing journey, my cycle has shifted depending on kind of what's happening. It hasn't always been exactly the same. And there were times where it was like flowing with the full moon and other times where it was flowing with the new moon. And sometimes I'm in between. And it's really interesting because we have been taught through like birth control that everything has to be on this really regimented cycle. And it's every 28 days. And then you have your pause days. And that's just not how it works.
No, and there are lessons that our life needs us to live ourselves into, and our womb is there to help navigate us so that we are ready to receive. Think of a football player who is like this, ready to catch, but the ball is not even going where they are pointed. Like the ball is being thrown in another direction. That's why I do believe, I always say that the thing about birth control and any outside intervention, hormone therapy, gut therapy, functional health, special diet, special exercise, any of these things, because they're treating from the outside and they're treating the symptoms, and they're treating the symptoms so that they are quieted so that you can keep on going in a way that does not serve. it might serve society's understanding of what you're allowed to be, but it doesn't actually serve you and your mission and why you came here. And so that is why who you be will override birth control. So many people are on birth control and they're like, I'm on birth control and I've started getting my period twice a month. Or I'm on birth control and I won't stop, in their words, bleeding. I have a thing about the word bleeding because you're not bleeding, but I won't stop menstrually shedding. Like I haven't stopped in over 2 months, but I'm on birth control. What's happening? Why isn't it working anymore? And it's kind of like if you have a tricycle, or you have a bike and you have a tricycle, and you know, the tricycle has those back wheels on it so that you can ride until you're ready to take them off. Well, let's say that you're past ready and you keep riding and you're riding faster because your legs are stronger. Well, the wheels are going to break off. So the order that you had that was making you safe at first is not helpful in where you are now, in who you're being now. We don't see 16-year-old boys or 16-year-old girls or people on tricycles going very, very fast. The tricycle can't handle the momentum of who they are being, of how strong they are. And that's exactly what birth control is. Sorry, if you're using it not for birth control. If you're using it for birth control, whole other spiel on that. But if you're using it to fix your period, this is why it doesn't work. Sorry, I just wanted to bring that caveat.
No, and I like that you brought that up because especially for young women, the moment they're having issues with like acne or any other hormonal potential imbalance or their hormones are coming into fruition in their body, the immediate reaction of traditional healthcare practitioners is to put them on birth control, whether they're sexually active or not. And we're watching these young women be flooded with like estrogen and progesterone far too young. And we're wondering why, aside from the hormones that are like existing in our food and our environment and all of the other factors that are affecting us physically, we're wondering why young women are developing so young. And hello, I had doctors trying to put me on birth control when I was 13 for not for because I was sexually active, but because I had health issues that they're like, oh, this will fix it.
Yeah.
No, it actually created a whole host of other issues
Yes.
instead that it took me until I was 36 to actually start being able to sort out. And it's only been in the past few years that I've really started sinking into my cycle and how I feel and the productivity that you were talking about, where I'm like, oh my God, they were squishing my superpower. Like, what the hell?
Yes. Yes. Oh, I so agree. I was put on birth control within 2 months of my menstruation beginning because I was in so much pain. They didn't know what to do. Just like you said, that you don't know what to do. And it is, I was in a session yesterday with my coach, and the question of joy came up. And I realized that I actually have no idea what that is because I was in chaos during my early menstruating years. And when you're in chaos, what do? You grab to some sort of structure to hoping that is to, because you don't know which way is up. So I would, I was in pain and all of that stuff, but I had no inner drive of what I actually wanted. I didn't, I feel like there is no one thing to blame it on. And I don't want to blame because I also love, I am listening to Alan Watts right now.
So
Oh,
good.
he's so great.
You go deep with Alan, but it's so good.
So good. And I'm listening to him, and he talks about the metaphor of the boat and the wake. And I don't know if you're familiar with it. I've heard it over the years, and every time I hear it, it feels like a warm blanket on my shoulders. So he says that when we create our present, oh, I just got a ding. So let me just turn off my phone. Didn't know it was on. When we create or let ourselves be informed by our past, We are actually just giving ourselves a story, even if it doesn't make sense, because it's actually not who we are now. And the metaphor he gives is that if there's a boat and it's moving forward, that's us in the present moment, it makes a wake. That wake is our past. That's what happened as a result of our present. But in order for us to, we can't respond. If I'm the boat, I can't respond to the wake that I'm leaving unless I'm living there and I'm just driving in a circle and I have to keep experiencing the wake to figure out what I am, you know?
You are also beautifully describing through that kind of the current model of healing trauma, which the more you kind of go through your own journey, the more you realize like some of these paradigms are still keeping you stuck in the victim mentality and the victim consciousness through that constant reliving of your trauma. There has to be a way that we can learn to accept and forgive and be able to move on. Or you do get caught in that wake, and it doesn't matter how much healing you're doing and how many practitioners you see, how often you're sitting in therapy, how well you think you can sit with your inner child and hold it, you still have to be able to move forward. And this is like a really important conversation, and especially with women, because what I'm learning, especially over the past couple of years, and this is why I'm excited to have this conversation with you, because it does affect me so much personally. I had an IUD removed like 2 years ago. And so it's the first time now for about 2 years where I'm really sitting into my own body and I'm really learning how to pay attention to this womb wisdom. And I'm learning through the healing journey how much of my trauma is actually trapped there. And like, as a woman, that's generational. Like we're going through epigenetics, we're going back into our grandmothers and beyond in terms of that womb trauma.
Yes.
But your healing journey can only go so far, if you're not willing to really start diving into those parts of your womanhood and your feminine, where your feminine essence comes from, and your intuition and your state of nurturing and receiving and your ability to soften, which is why I love the name of your program, The Fierce Gentleness, because gentleness is such a superpower. All of
Yes.
the things.
I love that too. And that is something that's so important that you're talking about. Oh my gosh. The ah, you can't have enough practitioners, to get you there. I love that my work is so much about what's happening right now. What's happening right now? What do you notice? What do you see? What are you calling in? Where is your attention? Because so many people say, oh, yes, I'm going to heal. I can heal your womb. We need to look at we have to look at your trauma. We have to, and I have somebody in my life who's I'm very, very close to, who um all the time she's it's almost like when we have a conversation, she's looking for an opportunity to say, I was hurt at a very young age. Something very, very awful happened to me. And I am trying to heal that. And I need time and I need progress. And my response to her is always, but are you creating a home in the habit of pain? Are you creating a home in the habit of, I need more time, I'm trying to heal, I'm doing the best I can, and it's not because I don't think she's allowed to have her pain. It's that something that happened for, 5 or 6 years has informed decades on decades on decades of living. And I don't even think that little inner child who went through that, I don't think she necessarily wants to drive the truck anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are starting to find themselves in that position now where they're like, I think I'm tired. Like it's what I'm calling kind of like spiritual fatigue, or like this healing fatigue that's setting in, where people are just done with the how to heal and the checklist and the steps. And I need to do this, and this to feel better. And it's that trap of getting kind of stuck in the past or stuck in the future, where you're trying to either protect yourself from what could happen based on what's being informed by your past experiences, or you're setting up defenses and walls and boundaries to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But that's exhausting because boundaries are also informed by the traumas that you've experienced. And for me, it's been like this season of, okay, do I have boundaries or do I have standards? There's a huge difference between the two, right? Because a standard is like, no, this is who I am and this is how I expect the world or how my world is going to show up for me because this is just who I am and what I'm expecting. Whereas a boundary is like, nope, you can't come here if you are coming in this particular fashion, which that's fine. But it is from a state of kind of victim
Reaction.
consciousness and reaction versus responding and observation. And it really makes a huge difference. And I'm starting to notice this switch that's getting flicked on a lot of people right now, where they just kind of want to lay it all down, but they don't necessarily know how to because they're like, okay, well, I've been doing all this work and I want to walk away from it. But if I walk away from it, am I going to repeat the pattern or am I actually okay to trust myself? And it comes down to trust. Can I trust myself enough to know that I'm just not going to go back there again? And
Yeah.
that's the work we're here to do. Like that's life. And I think it's so beautiful to find yourself in that space, but people are struggling with it, I think.
And that is why my work is particularly dedicated to people born with a uterus, because I believe that I found a solution. We as people born with a uterus are sponges, and especially in our lower three chakras, and those born without a uterus are cups. And so if you let power be water, if you set a sponge in water, it's going to absorb by default. And then if it needs to exert power, if we need the water from that sponge, it's one small and water comes out. Our friends without a uterus, they have to get the water. They have to go get it. And then to exert the power embodied by water, they have to then they have to displace themselves. We be and we be. They have to do and do. And so that knowing that about ourselves, knowing that we actually operate really well from inner knowings, from endowed knowledge, from remembering who we are, and actually from this journey, the heroine's journey, which is this spiral into the darkness, and then a spiral back up to the light. On that spiral, we are learning, but we are not displacing. They have to go from here to get there. We're already there, and we're just rediscovering based on our needs at that time. And so that's why my work is like all of my work, anything that you do in my collective or in any of my programs, it's always 10 minutes a day. And it's not, I want you to show up and then take a quiz afterwards. It is, listen to your 10 minutes a day while you're drying off from the shower. Let it passively feed you. You're going to be getting this information. I do 10 minutes a day, like my game-changing course that shifts people to pain-free, PMS-free, and regular lane cycles. It's 90 days of showing up for 10 minutes a day in passive receiving, not active. Because then what happens is the information sponge. It absorbs and then it percolates. And if you've seen a bouncy ball, if you take a bouncy ball and if you were to bounce it in an area that is dirty, every surface that ball touches, it's a little bit of it's going to come with that ball. It's going to be on. So when you hold that ball is going to be nasty if it's been bounced in a dirty place. This information bounces around our body, and our body holds so much knowledge. You know, if I focus on my left eyebrow bone, I can focus and learn something from that eyebrow bone by just engaging with it. Like we contain so much, and that's uterus or not. So it percolates through our body, and then it roots, and then it blooms as a as an impulse, as a nudge, as a realization from within. So we are being informed from without, but when we are discerning about our environment, than what we're letting ourselves absorb and letting ourselves be informed by, and then trusting that it's been going through us, so it's reliable. You see, that's us. And that's how all of this becomes so easy. But the big obstacle to get over, which is really exciting, because again, we do it through ease, through being, is that we've been told not to trust any of that.
Oh, I love that. And I love your example that you just gave about the sponge and the cup. I had a mentor that I met talk about the idea where, in a lot of the spiritual world, and even where we're being taught to connect to ourselves, we're still only being taught to be. And you're talking about, the women versus the men, but it's also the masculine and the feminine that we're balancing inside. And she always said, you're always in a state of be do be, which is what you just described between the being and the doing. And it also points to what we were talking about on our last call with women and men, where it's like the women point, the men lead, and then the women follow. That's the be do be. And I love that it just shows up everywhere when you really start to tap into the masculine and the feminine, both energetically and physically, and you really start to work to its strengths. The power that gets unlocked within, and the knowing, the intuitive knowing, um, it really cuts through the noise and the bullshit and everything that we're being fed. And you can no longer begin to, like, once you hear something, you can't unhear it. Like, there's just this inner knowing. So this analogy of the
And
ball
it's
bouncing
resonating with your
around.
truth.
Yes. Can you repeat that just in case I spoke over you?
When it's resonating with you said once you hear something, you can't unhear it when it's resonating with your truth.
Right. And you might not always know it's your truth, but there's something that's like icky and you're like, oh, I don't understand. And that's what you have to get so curious about.
The definition, so agony, I think is either a Greek or Latin word, but agony's root is it actually means unknown.
Interesting. The word suffering in the legal context means that you're consenting to harm. So when people say that they're suffering, or if you're suing for pain and suffering, one of the reasons why it's like one of the hardest things to win in a court is because to suffer means to consent to harm.
Yes. And what is it? I've heard somebody say pain is like pain is the touchstone of change. Pain is the touchstone of growth, but suffering is optional.
100%. That it's a choice, it's an active choice, always, which is why I love your work so much, because women are coming to you in pain and in perceived suffering, because they don't know what else to do. And they know that what they're being told is not resonating with that core truth. So I'd love to hear just a little bit, because we've just gone down like this crazy little rabbit hole and I love it. I love our conversations. But like, you call yourself the period empress, and I love it because you're not a queen, you're an empress. And I'd love
Yeah.
to hear just a little bit more why you selected those words, because I just love the intention behind it.
Thank you. Before, I just want to tie up one loop in the rabbit hole that we went down, because it just happened before our call. I have fresh bread. So I get fresh bread every few days, made in a bakery. It's a loaf. It's a loaf of bread like this, and not sliced, like just a loaf of bread. And when I love to scoop out the middle and eat it because it's so soft and yummy. And when I take a piece of the bread and I haven't scooped out the part, I'm eating the whole thing is soft. But if I have scooped out a part, the frame, that crust is very, very hard and very, very tough. And what I love about that, because I only just, it landed and I was like, oh, this is for the conversation, is that is that boundary part. That is that when we don't have anything, when we don't have a mass of moments and moments and moments, when we're not present, when all of us is not present, when we're showing up for how we think we're supposed to show up, I'm the frame of the bread, I'm the crust. the crust doesn't have to be soft. It's only soft because it's got nothing in the middle. And so it hardens in real time. So if I take a piece of that hard bread, I can eat it. But if I go to that same crust that was right behind that hard bread, where it had something underneath it, that part is soft. The bread is living right now, and it's reacting to what is happening to it. It hardens if there's nothing to protect, just the part that was cut off from it. That part hardens.
That's beautiful.
And then we think about bread that's like with preservatives. You know how you get the bread in the bag sliced, and it's always soft. It's always soft. What's it? It's reacting to nothing. It's not here. It's utility. It's not an event. And all that we're living is an event. We're going from event to event to event. If we're just getting through life, that's that bread. And who goes to the store? I remember I was in LA and staying at my friend's house, and we ran out of bread. So her husband went to the store and got the bread from the bakery that's in the grocery store, because they want that artisanally made, delicious, fresh bread. There is no sliced bread like that, you know, although I do like it sometimes for its utility.
That's another rabbit hole, because now you're getting into the convenience culture and what we do for convenience, right? And that's your work. It really sums up your work in terms of, as women, how we care for ourselves. We do everything we do around our period health is for convenience because of the world that we live in and the reality that we've constructed for ourselves based on these social norms, these masculine social norms that are totally out of flow and out of sync with, as you said, who we be. So that's a beautiful analogy.
I'm gonna get to why I'm in the period Empress, but I gotta say one more thing on this. I just put up a post on Instagram, or it's coming up today, because I don't actually, Instagram's really hard for me. So I have a lovely VA who helps me. And the post was about convenience, and it was just juxtaposing this position. So in Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You, in the bodyguard video, she sits like this and she belts, and I will always love you. She belts it sitting like this. And when we see people belt, they belt like that. But actually this position in yoga, when you contract, you exhale. When you inhale, you expand. And so she's sitting like this. This is soft. If this is soft, then instead of belting, which is coming from here, she is doing something else. She is literally channeling that that historic She's allowing that to happen in the way that is with most ease for the action she's taking, instead of how it's supposed to look. And then I took that and I looked at people giving birth, because women recline. They're supposed to be standing like this. Same thing. Look at this position: contraction, expression, press. X is out, right?
And for anyone listening, like, you're basically just squatting. Like, we're not supposed to be on our back pushing. We're supposed to be in a squat position to create the least resistance and allow gravity to do its job. Yeah.
And statistically, pregnancies are faster and safer when they're done in this way, because there's lower chance of things that do not serve our body, that were there just for pregnancy. There's a higher chance that they will evacuate because we're standing. And guess why we recline? I looked it up. 2 reasons. One goes to Louis XIV. He was enamored with the birthing process, and so he liked to witness them, and he could see more when the women were reclining. And the other definition, the other reason that my research showed was because doctors and midwives can see what's happening inside more easily. So this is us giving birth, and we are accommodating. This is what it is to be in a convenience culture. This is what it is to override your needs for somebody else.
Oh yeah, and this is where we start getting into and really getting into the minutia of like our codependency, our fears of abandonment, lack, all of those kind of cultural and societal wounds that are underpinning how we've constructed our society. And I came across the free birthing movement, I don't know, a couple years ago, and I was like fascinated by it because I'm like, these women are warriors. And I mean, when you look at nature, we are nature. And I went down a rabbit hole. I don't want to get too off topic here, but I'd gone down a rabbit hole of kind of looking at our birthing stories and understanding how trauma gets also imprinted, how we exit the birth canal and what gets imprinted into like the vagus nerve. And how we're born, when you start mapping like the different interventions through birth, how that actually affects our personalities going forward. So whether you had like a more holistic style birth or cesarean section or forcep, or if you were a breech, like how those interventions, if there were sedatives used, it has an impact on our personality. It's interesting because like most people who were born through cesarean, if you talk to them and they think about it long enough, they tend to start projects a lot and can never finish them. They really struggle to
Mm,
finish because innately they weren't even allowed to complete on their own their very first task in entering this world. So it's a
yeah.
really interesting rabbit hole to start going down, when we also look at these interventions, not only how they impact us as women, and intervene with our own intuition, but then how it impacts our offspring going forward. Even like the time in which you cut the umbilical cord, like you don't do it right away. You're basically just pulling off the oxygen supply right away
Mm,
instead of allowing it to kind of naturally start to harden. And like a mother deer. I'm looking here because there's deer. But like a mother deer, if when she births her fawn, she doesn't chew the umbilical cord right away. She waits. She knows. She knows when the
mm.
time is right. She knows when the baby's ready to breathe. So, and this is all part of the intuition. And this is why the period health is so important, because if you can get on top of this, perhaps before you get pregnant, it really informs the way you will go through pregnancy, the way you will birth your baby. If you have a girl, how you will handle her um, feminine health moving forward. So it's so important. It's so important.
I love it. And that segues perfectly to why I'm the period empress, because I see menstrual health I see it from an entirely different universe, because all of menstrual health is dedicated to the symptoms. And in the old way, in the way that is not steady plus free, that is not period empress, that is not fierce gentleness. And that's why there's no movement. You can throw $2 million at, or $200 million at menstrual health. We're going to fix menstrual health. As long as you're working, as long as you're trying to, again, as long as you're trying to fix something, fix the boat from the wake it's creating, not fixing the boat. You're trying to manipulate the waves and the way that they're moving. Nothing's going to change. And so when I took a different perspective, I got different solutions, and I got it in a way that's entirely unprecedented. I wanted nothing to do with traditional solution. And the fastest way to distinguish myself is to use this title, the period empress. And it lets people know, this is an entirely different world. And Queen has been, first of all, Queen is one of the phases, one of the embodied names that I use for my 4 menstrual phases, for the 4 menstrual phases that are always happening to us. But I like to use embodied names so they're easier to work with. for us. We're not memorizing things like luteal. Luteal means nothing to anybody.
Thank you for that. It's too clinical too.
It is, it's clinical. And again, it's going back to, oh, luteal phase. Let me look up what I am right now. Instead of queen phase, how do I feel? I feel fierce. I feel in charge. I feel empowered. I feel critical. I feel like I'm really allowed to tell everybody how they need to do the world. And I'm going to take all of that and I'm going to turn it on me because I can heal myself. I'm going to tell myself what I can do to heal the world because I'm aware of it, because I know I'm ready for the shift. That's what we do in queen phase. And so, and also queen, you know, people have, what's up, queen, queen, and Empress, queen has become in French, and you're Canadian, so you might speak French, mistinguett. Queen has become mistinguett, sassy. And Empress will always have a solemnity, a purposefulness in her being. Queen still has to do some asserting, which we love. We love queens. I love queens. It's great. But Empress is inviting a preciousness and sacredness. So it's so many reasons that I'm the period Empress. And the name actually came intuitively and was very uncomfortable for me when I accepted it.
When we start really sinking into our truth and our power, like there's like this audaciousness that comes with it and like this imposter syndrome that comes behind it. Like, who am I to call myself this? Who am I to embody this? But it's like, hell, if you're not going to do it, no one's going to do it for you. Right. And to step into that title is to fully claim it and to sit in your knowing. And I love it. I love it.
Thank you. And I love who it calls in. You know, something that I was calling in because I believe myself to be this as well. I was calling in victims and martyrs. And victims and martyrs, if they don't want to change, or if they're not ready to, they're going to do everything they can to prove that nothing can change, that suffering is not optional, is not avoidable. And they don't even, here to their credit though, they don't even start. They never make it to the starting gate with my work, no matter how much I tried to pull and prod. My empowered women, my empowered people who are like, I am sick and tired, you know, that network moment. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. When I invited them, you know, why were people yelling out of their windows in that movie? Because the newscaster did something different and it was true. And I love that.
Yeah, and the Empress, it sits in the feminine, which is receiving and allowing. It's not forcing and contorting and pushing. The Empress doesn't need the martyr and the victim, right? You don't need
Yes.
those people. That's not who you are and that's not who you attract. And it's a beautiful testament too that when you are sitting deeply in your feminine, you become just this incredible magnet to all that is meant for you, and you will naturally repel all that is not. And that's the beautiful thing of being able to really sit in that. But it will hit at every wound that you have around fear and lack and scarcity and abandonment, because a lot of things, interesting, have to shed away in order to make room for the new.
I fully agree. And that's why this process relies on the endowed knowledge. That's why everything I do, if you're in my world, and that's why I needed to make a membership. I had to make the collective because I needed a place where every moment is dedicated to encouraging our feminine energy being, not to deny our masculine energy, but because we're so far leaning into that we don't know where down and up are.
We're very heavy, and we're heavy in the wounded masculine, but we need the healthy masculine and we need the healthy feminine. And this rebalancing, I think even just from a cosmological and planetary and energetic state right now, it's now unavoidable and people are being thrust into it and they don't even know what to do. They just know that there's this inner turmoil that's happening. And through the awakening process, too, we tend to start running into health issues. And I think a lot of women who have been deeply in their masculine are going to be running into these womb issues as well.
I love that. And that is the other part is that we have to operate with this endowed knowledge so that we can trust it. And so that we can practice getting used to trusting. And we have to essentially, I've heard about this with love maps. People say that when we meet somebody new, we have a love map that we learned from our parents that for many of us wasn't helpful. We meet somebody new and we're using that old love map to figure out if we are attracted and if they fit. But that map is unreliable. So we have to get used to a whole other way of being. And that is really uncomfortable. And that, just like you said, it's going to uncover wounds that want to be healed, that will avail themselves to be healed. And it's not, I always say how easy it is, 10 minutes a day, just 10 minutes a day. But it's hard in that way that you're living into a new reality, that you don't get the support. The support is so tough because even coaching, therapy, all of these things are relying on keeping you in the flow of the norm.
Yeah, I did a call with someone not too long ago where we were talking about kind of standard modern therapy models, and you can't really fix the soul in the externally focused world. We need the tools and we need the support, but we need the person that's the light bearer, the person that is going to allow you in utter darkness to find your own light so that you can learn how to start guiding yourself out of it, not to stand there with the flashlight and pull you through it the whole way. That you never learn those self-navigation skills through that process. And healing at a very deep cellular and generational level has to come from a place of self-navigation. We have to be able to lead ourselves through it. Um, but doing it independently doesn't mean doing it in isolation, which is why I love that you have a membership. So not only are you giving people the power and the ability to really go, no, I can trust my intuition. I'm not crazy. That's usually a big thing too, because when you're saying this is how I feel and someone else is saying, well, that's not what I see, what's wrong with you? And we get into this diagnosis psychosis where we're relying on someone else to tell us how to validate how we feel. It can be a very lonely place. And the gaslighting that takes place inside of those environments has detrimental effects and it really impacts our intuitive knowing. So that's why I love so much of what you're doing. And um, kind of what does your membership process look like? So if someone was to say, hey, period, Empress, I need some help. Like when they come to you, what's kind of like the process that they're brought through?
Yeah. And I love the focus on process because something I found when I was first starting out is I would do sessions with people and I would solve the problem. I could tell them, do this and your period problems are over. It's this one thing. But that would only solve that symptom. It would solve it by treating a cause, but it would only get rid of that one thing. And then more things would say, oh, okay, my turn. And I think about in yoga, how when you have a long-term practice, eventually the work that you're doing in yoga, the nutrition and the actions you're taking will start to actually affect your bone health. Like you get strong enough that deep core stuff starts to get healed. And too many of us want our souls to be healed, but we're not living in an environment, we're not curating a world where we're strong enough to be able to handle, to be able to get to our soul and to create a way that our soul can be able to heal. It's not coming out clear enough. Yes, yes. When you do yoga for a long time, a beginner's yoga class can be very, very hard because you're so aware and you know how you're supposed to do it. And because you have an integrity with your practice, then that beginner's class is not so easy because you have all that awareness. So you have that mental, emotional, intuitive, and physical strength. That easy is now hard. And when you're showing up in that way, then that is why your bones actually are getting nutrition, because everything else, your blood vessels, your skin, your other organs, other things that were screaming and saying, I need help, those have all been helped. And so now we can reach the inner core that is your framework. Your bones are your framework for your body. Your soul is your framework for your being. And we are trying to get to the soul without, and that's how the collective works, is that I can get you there, but you can't handle all that's going to come from solving that one problem. So I'm not doing you a service by solving you. And so in the collective, what happens is you come in and everybody who starts with the mission to get to pain-free, PMS-free, and regular length cycles. And so that's the core kind of course. But then there's also, we come in at different times of our cycle, and you've got to start that course in the embodied phase, in the right phase for beginnings. And so we got to prime you to be ready to begin. And so we actually have a rest-centered program that primes your body so that you can receive what the big course, that the big goal of the first phase of the membership offers. And then what happened is people are there and they're like, I want more of it. So we created the phase zone, which tells you different activities, books to read, movies to watch, poems to read, activities to do, analog, 1 day off from all digital, 1 day off from everything is like pushed very strongly there. So you get all these things according to your phase. And then we have the reparenting pod where you get that time with the inner child. Because but none of these things these are all just like things to help cushion your journey, and, we have in the phase zone, we talk about yoni eggs, and we have an expansive breathing practice. Like we have all this other stuff, but the core of it is there. And then after your body gets to its menstrual balance. So now you're operating like this. See, even if you're operating like this, if I give you a topic like money, then if I had a ball, but you're out of menstrual balance, you can't hold it. Or this is the career for me and I have success here and you don't actually like it. All those things. So once you're here, then we can build on the foundation. So the next 3 months are dedicated to finances and worthiness. And then the last 6 months are dedicated to, and we do the same thing. We be our way into it. And then the last 6 months are dedicated to putting it all together, making those audacious goals, and having the support and the cushion of the community to enjoy it with you as you go. And so and then there's tiers with different benefits in the tiers, blah, blah, blah. But that's in a nutshell, the collective we come to be.
No, that's beautiful. And there's direction there, but it's also somewhat self-guided because you have to be able to rest on your own inner knowing to know where to go, to feel your way through it, kind of driving by feel, if you will.
Yes.
And I appreciate that as someone who doesn't really like checklists and appreciates being able to see a framework without feeling like it's work. I think that's really important right now because we're burnt out, right? We don't want to have another task on our plate. And 10 minutes is so achievable, especially for anyone who, if you're like me and you're getting out of the shower and you're throwing on a podcast, like why not listen to something or be absorbing something that really truly reflects your inner being instead of a narrative from the external world. One of the reasons why we're at war, like I look at the world right now and it's like the external war is just a reflection of the war within. And it's because we've become so infatuated with, like, celebrity culture drives me crazy because we've become so infatuated with wanting to know everything about everyone else that we are such strangers to ourselves. And it's in getting to know ourselves that we actually solve all of the problems inside of us. And the radical transformations that come from that are immeasurable and just so beautiful. And that's why I'm so passionate about finding and connecting with women and men like yourself who truly embody their talk. Like you're not just like walking your talk. You fully embodied it. And the passion that you have for it is palpable. And like our last chat was what, it was supposed to be 20 minutes and it was an hour and a half because it's amazing, right? It's just so amazing because we just get on these tangents and we understand each other, and that's the importance of the collective, right? Healing in community, to be able to find the people that you resonate with, to find your unicorn. Everybody, I've been collecting unicorns, that's what I say lately, is like I've just been finding them in the wild everywhere and I'm like collecting them, because it's so important to find someone who just understands you and isn't trying to necessarily fix you either, right? Because when we're in therapy, it's like that external, like, you're fixing me. It's like, no, no, I'm just going to sit with you while you do it. I'm going through my shit too. And we're here for each other. And that's going to be really important because that also, for me, it's the passion that I have about resurrecting like elderhood and have it go from being like this title, like it's bestowed upon people, into back into a function of society where you are always stepping into the role of student and teacher everywhere you go. You always have something to share, you always have something to learn. And collectives that are set up and structured like yours are breeding grounds for that, for empresses, which for me, an empress and emperor, those are elders. They get it. It's that embodied intuitive knowing. And I love it. So, but in the collective, I know we talked about this before, your tiers. So queen is one of the phases. What are some of the other phases? Um, how have you mapped those?
Yeah, so the four menstrual phases are named. So I'll do the biological names first, and then I'll do the embodied names. And that's the tiers in the collective are just based on how much you get. There's people who are self-driven. That's one tier called release. And then there's another tier that gives you access to me where we do Q&As, we do gathering experiences that are somewhat channeled, somewhat educational. And then the third tier is when that's a sisterhood. And that is, if you know that you want to grow in this way and you want to essentially infect your life from every direction with this work, then those are the tiers. But the four menstrual phases biologically that are happening to you, whether or not you acknowledge it, are follicular. And then the second phase is this time where you go from follicular to ovulation to luteal. So that is happening in one phase, and you are a certain way over that way that is distinct from follicular. And then now you're in luteal, where you are fully in luteal, like you've ramped up and now you're there. That's luteal. And then finally is menstrual. And so those are the four biological names. And then I use soldier. In follicular, we're actually being fed testosterone. We're very aggressive. We're very dogmatic. We're very impatient. And we want to follow orders. That's soldier phase. And that is actually the time when we are most like men. And that is the time that most women go, when they're in the other phases, they're like, this isn't like me. I'm usually like this. You're not usually like that. You're like that for like 5 days, but you just think that you are because this is the moment where you're fitting in. And you're like, oh, I'm normal. See, I'm normal. No. And then the next phase is peacemaker. That's when you're going through, but you're so attractive. You're so literally like your hormones are calling in people. You are driven, you are drawn to them. You are in love with everybody. And like the symbol of the peacemaker is a pregnant woman. Because a pregnant woman is allowed to set standards. She's allowed to set standards because she's being of the most important service that women are supposed to do. Not okay. None of that's okay. But we let pregnant women, we let them be embodied people who finesse boundaries and who are allowed to curate the world that serves them. And that pregnant woman energy is there for us in, so you're finessing things while the world loves you and you love the world. It's a beautiful time. Diplomats are shady AF because they make you feel good about the agenda they're imposing on you. That's peacemaker. Third phase is queen. So the first two phases, we are extroverted. Queen and priestess, which is the fourth phase, we are introverted. And so also our energy is it when it was in soldier and peacemaker, it was pretty standard. Our energy starts to be very variable, high, low in queen. And then just like a ball bouncing, when you do the first bounce, it goes up and then it comes down and then it goes up a little bit less and then it goes down and then it goes up a little bit less. Yeah, that's the same thing that's happening with our energy as it comes to stillness in priestess, where our body, all the volumes in all four holistic bodies that make up our wholeness, the intuitive, physical, emotional, and mental, the volumes turned all the way down on everything except for intuition. So we are priestesses. We are meant to be alone so that we can receive with no interruption, no mental saying, that's not true. You can't do that. None of that's happening. And we're just downloading solutions and happenings and understandings that will solve our lives. And what happens with those solutions we've written down? They become directives that soldier picks up and they run down the field and they get these things done. They're following orders and they're not questioning them. And now we're back in our cycles again, back around.
I love that because I know for myself, I can definitely identify with the soldier phase. And like you said, that is what society tells us that we should be because it is deeper in our masculine. And because it's usually the time where I know I am just very task oriented and I get shit done. I'm like, yeah. And then when you fall out of that, you're like, oh, like I'm not as productive as I could be. But it's that learning how to sprint. Well, for me, it's like I work in sprints now, not marathons, right? I'm not trying to keep a steady flow with my work. I work based on how I feel. And it does look more like that bouncing ball. And everything I've achieved far more um success and my creativity is so much higher. And um the magnetizing effect that I have when I work in flow um is immeasurable. Like I can't begin to describe like looking at my 80 to 100 hour weeks when I was grind versus what I do when maybe I only work 20-hour weeks. It's there's no comparison. There's absolutely no comparison. So I always wonder like with when we think about periods like chicken or the egg, like what comes first, the follicular stage or the menstrual stage. But if we're thinking to like our young women and the women who are just getting ready to enter this journey and to the mothers of those women, um, when they're entering their priestess phase, when they're becoming their priestess for the first time, like what are those conversations? Like in a perfect world, how are we mentoring and guiding our young women into their priestess phase?
So the answer to every question that you could ever ask me will always be being, because that's our number one superpower. And so in my perfect world, our mothers have been living according to their phases. You talked about the sprint. They're sprinting when it's the right work to sprint with. and they're canoeing when it's the right work to canoe with. And so they are living in this way of easeful impact through being. And so their daughters, or whatever they want to identify as, that are born with a uterus, they see mom go to priestess. And what they see that mom does is that mom removes herself from the daily happenings of the family. And she has a special corner of her world. It might be a different part of the home, or it might be that she goes somewhere else, and like down the block to the Airbnb that's for rent, or goes to the Four Seasons and spends 3 days there, for her radical restorative, for her time of restoration, because the first 3 days of our menstrual phase, the same way that our friends without a uterus, they sleep. So they get they're on a 24-hour hormonal cycle that exactly parallels our 28-day hormonal cycle. So when they sleep, restoration on a physiological level is happening. And we are not doing that when we're sleeping each night. Those are pit stops so that we can keep running the race. But our car has to be taken off of the track and be cared for in a garage before it can run its next race. That is the restorative time that is happening in the first 3 days of our cycle. So our little one, and I actually had a client tell me the story of this for her. One day she picks up her little one from school. She has 2 daughters. She picks them up from school and she says, okay, guys, Papa is yours and mommy's going to priestess. Mommy's going into the temple. And her little one said, oh my gosh, mommy, can I please come with you to the temple? You can come with me to the temple if you have something to read or if you'd like to rest and relax. But if you can't, that's okay, because you don't have to. But that's part of mommy's work in the temple. That's mommy's time in the temple. I can't wait to go to the temple with you. Well, you may get to go to the temple with me, but every priestess has her own temple, and you may want to enjoy your own temple. And so we'll see what happens. Well, I just can't wait. It just looks like so much fun. It is. It is. Okay, I love you. I'll see you in a little bit. Done. You see? So so they're not getting a lesson. They're not getting a trigger event talk. They are living the joy and the anticipation of this experience.
That ties beautifully into what you were talking about earlier with the love mapping, right? You become what you witness. And I love that you tied it all together with this, and that you really doubled down on the being, because that's the purpose of the Grand Rising experience, is to teach you how to rise into those phases of your life. And the image that you just painted of the temple, I love that. And I don't think people think about that in terms of like, yeah, you can go away for a couple of days. And especially now where people have been able to work online, like if you don't have the leisure, the ability to take a few days off of work, but if you can change your surroundings, if you can change the way that you're working, you can make it more restful, if you can create that sanctuary for yourself, that is like the ultimate self-care. And also, like, what comes up for you? Like, I feel like for women specifically, a lot is going to come up around taking that space and setting those standards and creating that energetic boundary around your sanctuary. It's going to teach you so much about yourself during that time. And it's a beautiful reflection period as well to really integrate what comes up during that time.
It is, I actually have a talk that I give businesses and organizations about how when we ignore the wrongfully named menstrual leave, because it's not an exceptional experience, it happens every month. So I call it the 3-day restorative. When we ignore that for our people with a uterus and we make it optional, instead of acknowledging the essential things that are happening that our body expects to have happen. Whatever you do, you're going to be moving slower. You're going to be out of sorts. You're going to be forgetful because your brain is not wired to remember things and to do things, because its focus is on it trusts that you are taking care of it and that you are taking it out of high stimulation. It's expecting that. So when you don't acknowledge that time, that's leaving money on the table. That is cutting into your profits because you are getting nothing out of that person. And that person feels awful, and it puts them on this overcompensation track, and it puts them on this apology and shame track. And that infects their work for the next cycle, and their body never caught up because it never got the rest that it needed to restore. And so you just have this person coming apart and trying so hard to be enough, and it gives us this, women, we have to do it all. Give it to Grace, because she's gonna get it done no matter what. She's gonna stay the extra hour. She's a workhorse. We know statistically that the line of diminishing returns is 32 hours of work a week. After that, the work is not as effective as it was, period. If it's before that, then sometimes the pressure of time diminishes the quality of the work. That line, it's between 24 and 32 hours. That is the sweet spot for most of us. So this whole thing of working harder is just working harder. It doesn't serve us. And so to get back to what you were saying with how everything is affecting everything, in this choice to be, we can get our people without a uterus on board, because they need to realize that their world needs moms, wives, female employees, assistants, everybody to be rested, to be restored. We can't go on like this. I lost the question.
No, but I doesn't matter because I love where you took it. And I think it's really important that we can't fight for equality, I'm using air quotes, as women in the workplace, and ignore this biological aspect of what it means to be a woman. We are not equal biologically, and to believe that we should be working the same instead of in harmony and in honor of who we be, we'll never find equality. And that's why I love your work. I'm going to keep saying that. Like, I
Oh,
love your
thank
work.
you.
I love it. I really, truly do, because um, it does hit at a lot of these societal struggles that we're having right now. It's like, guys, you're fighting the wrong battle. Like, we really have to just step back and take it inward, and, you heal you. And when you heal you, you heal all. And the moment we can take charge of our period health as women, we fundamentally shift. We fundamentally shift. We shift how we nurture the world. And as the nurturers and the women who must go first, as I said earlier, women point, men lead, women follow. If we want to go first, we have to start by taking this sacred experience that we've been endowed with incredibly seriously and honor it for what it truly is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry,
The word is equity.
equity over equality. Thank you. They're not the same thing. Yes, absolutely. I could talk to you forever. Um, and we probably will at one point. But in the meantime, Christine, where can people find you? If they're listening to you going, "Oh my God, she's speaking my language. Oh my God, I know there's something wrong." And you mean I don't need to go to a gynecologist? You mean I can actually start taking control over this period health and these issues that I'm having, and the cramping and the fibroids and the PCOS and the all of the things? How can they get in touch with you?
definitely joining the email list, because it's the most, I love that. I love it. Point, women point, men follow,
Lead,
let men lead,
women follow.
women follow. And so just opening your mailbox to receive and just letting things land. And it gives you that opportunity to passively receive. When you go onto the website, you're going like this. What can I take? What do I get? You're not receiving. And so I think the easiest way to receive without the noise is email. And so my email is, I think I have a link for you that invites people to the email list.
Yes, I'll make sure all of the details are in the show notes. But your recommendation is get on the email list first and then let it guide you.
Yes, because then you'll be intuitively attracted to certain things. I give a lot of information, but I'm speaking on different levels of awareness, because I don't expect you to share my vocabulary for a while. 2 months into I love it. In the collective, when I get emails and messages from members, they're speaking the language that we created, like that the Fierce Gentleness Framework. Oh, it's so cool. So, but again, it's absorbed. They didn't take a language course about how to speak in equity-driven language about menstruation, So yeah, that's the easiest way. And of course, you can always catch me, hello@steadyandfree.com by email.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming with your whole heart and your whole self and just allowing what needed to flow today. Steady. Just allowing what needed to flow through you. It's a beautiful conversation. I cannot wait to share you with the world.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you again for being the unicorn collector. Because, people I know, and this came up in our other conversation, I know that people want to go to the unicorn museum and they want to see all the things that you've collected. And, I'm so glad that you took the risk to show up for this very specific thing instead of, oh, I'm a podcast host, anybody can be on. Every part of the process was, wow, this feels really special and this feels really right.
Christine Marie shared so many beautiful insights and such wisdom throughout this conversation. And I love that it took such a nuanced approach as well, because as women, as spiritual beings, as souls embodying a physical body, we always have to remember to tend to the soul first. And that really is part of the essence of the Grand Rising experience, is giving you the inspiration and the tools to be able to take everything that's happening outside of you and really come into alignment and be able to witness yourself first and observe how you are choosing to move through this world and how you can begin to take radical responsibility and accountability over yourself first before we begin pointing fingers externally and diluting our power by not trusting the intuitive knowing that we have. Sharing is caring. So if you or someone you love is struggling right now and could use additional information and new perspective and support regarding their uterine health, you can connect with Christine Marie at the Empress on Instagram or via email at hello@steadyandfree.com. All of the links are in the show notes below. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, rate, review, give it 5 stars. Head on over to grandrisingexperience.substack.com. Get on the email list. Learn about the unicorns that I am collecting all over this world that are showing up in their truth, in their power, in their wisdom to hold space for those who are willing to learn how to begin to take charge and power over their life. As always, I have nothing but love and gratitude in my heart for all of you for being here. Thank you so much. Until next time, I love you.